What led you to joining Clutch? And where was the business at as far as like the stage when you joined?
Yeah, it was pre-seed. It was super early. We launched one market. Carvana was just kind of emerging back then in the US. And a lot of other players globally. And this is not the first time this idea had ever been kind of executed on. BP, from like probably 15 years ago at this point, was kind of the first, I would say, real version of like a managed car marketplace. And there's actually a TechCrunch article on it about managed marketplaces that talks about BP. And I think there were some lessons to be learned there, but when Clutch was early, I joined literally one market launched. And um, for those that don't know exactly how the business works, and the current version of the model really takes advantage. And so, kind of going back to, I would say 2020 and 2021, a lot of VCs and, when I was out raising growth equity, there was two very distinct camps. There were those that thought I should be owning all of the assets, and those that wanted asset light. And people had very strong opinions about both models. And as a result, there were companies globally. There's a bunch of us types of businesses around the globe. There were those that kind of pursued the more asset light model, and those that pursued the more vertically integrated kind of heavy infrastructure models. And kind of at the time it wasn't as obvious. Today, now it's quite obvious. But at the time, a lot of the folks that didn't own their assets had to outsource a lot of the kind of value add services that would take place because we are a managed marketplace. And so, kind of distilling it back. So our business, what we do is we buy cars directly from consumers, and we use a lot of technology to do that. So today we buy about $2 million worth of cars every day, take those and we put those on our balance sheet, and that's kind of the managed marketplace piece of it because we take the risk of the inventory. And then we have these large, I'm sitting in one of our largest reconditioning facilities. It's on 20 acres. It's 111,000 square feet of space where we then do actual work to the car. We recondition that car, oil change, air filters, cosmetic work. We do transmission work, tires, brakes. So we do the full suite of reconditioning, and then we put that on a website for consumers to buy in like very seamless Amazon-like experience. And the 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 crux of the business model is that if folks have not, I'll refrain from, commenting on Elon or whatever, but if you've read his book, there's a concept in Elon's book that talks about the idiot index. And it's the notion that if there's a product where the cost of the goods are far lower than the actual price of the product, then like the idiot index is high, right? You shouldn't be paying that much for that thing because either there's inefficiencies in the supply chain, or there's, something, you're not sourcing it properly, or there's like, the processes are not efficient. And so in car repair, that's certainly true, right? If you go and try to get a dented bumper fixed, it's going to cost you anywhere between like $2,000 to $4,000, right? But the actual inputs of that are actually quite cheap. So paint, a little bit of labor, and then the plastic and some steel, right? Like that's the cost. And if you go to your local dealership and try to get service done, the cost they're going to charge you 200 to, well, in Canada, $200 an hour, or probably $150 an hour in the US for labor. And so what we're able to do is we're able to put $1,000 to $1,000 to $1,500 of reconditioning into the vehicle. But the retail value of that is almost 4 to 5x. And so that allows us to recondition those at scale, recondition those cars at a much cheaper cost, which allows us to buy and give consumers a better price for their car than any dealership. And then so we can pay more, we can recondition cheaper, and then offer a better product at either the same or lower price back to the consumer. Right. So that's like where the value add comes in. And so that's the crux of the model. Um, you know, over time, owning that reconditioning and the full vertical integration of that is what creates value. And so as a result, it's pretty hard to do this model asset light because you need the control over that core piece of the business. It also allows you to deliver a superior customer experience, allows you to control and maintain costs. There's a whole bunch of reasons why that makes a lot of sense. And so what you've seen in the world is the companies that have pursued the more vertically integrated, like asset heavy model have actually emerged as the winners and those that haven't. And so in the US, companies like Vroom and Shift that were less asset heavy are now gone by the wayside. And Carvana has this massive advantage because they have one, they own all of this land and space, or at least have access to all this land and space, but also built these massive reconditioning centers. And so that's our advantage as well, and allows us to, really deliver I think, a superior customer experience, by being able to own the full value chain around reconditioning.